Welcome to the Student Ministry Matters podcast. We want to encourage, equip, and connect those with a passion to impact the next generation for Jesus Christ. Student ministry can be a lonely place. You might even feel like you're the only one in your church or community that cares about students. Well, know this, you're not alone. People all across the country are engaging Gen Z and care deeply about the spiritual direction of these young men and women. Whether you're full-time, part-time, bivocational, or volunteer, if you have a heart for students, this is the place for you.
Welcome back for another Student Ministry Matters update. These updates are designed with you in mind. If you work with students and you're looking for ways to connect with us or with ministries that we're involved in, that's what these updates are all about. Now, on today's podcast, we're talking with Travis Sellers. Travis is the worship pastor at Antioch Baptist Church of Conway, Arkansas, but he is also the creative consultant at the SOAR 2023 conference. It's a place and a thing that you want to consider with your students. And so I hope that you'll listen through our podcast today, gain some information, maybe some insight of what it's going to be about and what it's going to be like. But before we do that, before I talk with Travis, I want to thank those of you who are listening to our podcast. It has just been such a treat to see this podcast grow. So let me encourage you, reach out and talk with your friends, with your ministry colleagues, those that are working with students. If they have any desire in their life to be more knowledgeable about student ministry, have them connect with us. Now, we've never claimed to be the experts. We just have some experience, and we try to use biblical principles in everything we do. And so just continue to reach out. We're over 22,000 downloads in total, and we've seen those numbers grow. You can connect with us on social media, and you can find lists of episodes to look at and to listen to. We were really proud of episode 150 that had both of our wives on there, Chris, my co-host, and brought his wife, Sydney, and my wife, Temple. And so it's a fun conversation with the four of us. Now, there's also an episode, number 50, 100 episodes back, where I interviewed my daughter about what it's like to be a preacher's kid, those days of when she was the youth pastor's daughter in my youth group. Some of those things come up. But there's a lot of great things to listen to and a lot of things that you can share. We're here for you. That's what Student Ministry Matters is all about. We care about you, those of you who are working with students. So our updates, again, are ways that you can connect with us or with ministries that we are proud to sponsor and to celebrate. And this is one of those. I'll be talking with Travis about the SOAR conference. But before we get to that, I want to thank our podcast partner for these updates. Hill City Popcorn of Fayetteville, Arkansas, offers gourmet popcorn of all time. There's the sweet, which includes their Hatties or their buttery caramel. There is the savory, and they have all sorts of things, including a jalapeno ranch, a cheddar ranch. They have movie theater popcorn, just some great things, even some fun ones. I like dill pickle, and they have that. And so check out their website, hillcitypopcorn.com. It makes a great gift for the holidays. Although we're past most of those, this can be a treat just kind of out of nowhere and surprise somebody that you care about with some Hill City popcorn. So again, we thank them. They are been supportive of this ministry really from the beginning, and I'm just so thankful to be able to give them a shout out on this podcast. Well, again, we're talking about SOAR today, and that's the primary focus of this update as we start preparing for SOAR 2023. If you're planning your summer out and you have missed your deadlines, well, you haven't missed all of them, but it's time to get planning as you look ahead at what you're going to be doing with your students during these summer months. So again, thanks for listening, and we're going to listen in just a moment to my conversation with Travis Sellers. Well, Travis, thanks for being on the podcast with us.
Glad to be here.
Travis, among your other responsibilities, and I'll have you share about those in just a moment, you're the creative consultant for the SOAR 2023 conference, and I'm excited to learn more about that and to be able to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a new thing that I'm tackling with Donnie Parrish. Donnie Parrish is the leader of all things BMA when it comes to SOAR, and he has asked me to come alongside with Drew Klein to be more of a creative consultant, more of a producer role in that. And we're looking forward to some of the things we'll be doing for sure.
Great, great. Well, Travis, to help our listeners know a little bit more about you before we get into our questions and content about SOAR 2023, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your family, your ministry, what you do.
I surrendered to ministry back in mid '90s, so I've been doing ministry since then. I'm a minister's kid. My dad was a minister, is a minister, and so I've grown up in church. I've grown up in being in ministry. When I surrendered to ministry, worship leading was the avenue that God put me in, and that doesn't necessarily define all that He's done with me in ministry, but that's definitely been a target for me, a passion for me. And so I've done a lot in that area. I've lived in Texas. I've done ministry in Texas and now Arkansas. I did 17 years in Texas, and now I'm about year 12 here in Arkansas.
Mm.
I'm with Antioch Baptist Church there in Conway, Arkansas, and it's been a blast. Just to give you a little bit of my family. I've been married for 26 years, and I've got 4 kids, and they're all at this pivotal life experiences of graduating high schools and college. I've got a daughter who's 23, just got married. I've got a son who's 21, just finishing college this May. I've got a son, 18, graduating high school this May, and then I've got a 16-year-old who has got 2 more years left. So I'm in this strange time of my life where all my kids are wanting to leave me, and but it's what you train them to do. So
It is. It is. Now I only have 2, so one has graduated from college and gotten married, and then I have another one that's down in your neck of the woods. She's there at Central Baptist College in Conway, and so it's weird. There are moments we just sit at our house and sit quietly and deal with our crazy dogs and that sort of thing. So
it's what we do to cope.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. Well, listen, let's get into our content today. I'm so excited that the SOAR conference continues. Beginning back in 1991, it has been one of the mainstays in the BMA of America, especially for those that are involved in student ministry. There have been many times where it's been the largest gathering of students in our work, and not just students, but largest gathering of BMA Baptists for many years. And so I'm excited that even as it changes and morphs over the years and little things shift, there is that sort of stability that we love and we care about our students. And so tell us a little bit just about the conference itself, its theme, where it's going to be held this year.
Well, as you mentioned, at the very beginning phases of SOAR, Donnie Parrish was one of those voices, along with Bobby Tucker. The Bobby Tucker, like is what we say. And they had a vision for the conference to really be a heart language for the students, to be able to engage with them on their level. And that's been from the very, very, very beginning. And throughout the years, as you said, it's morphed, it's changed, it's taken on different looks and different leadership and things of the sort. And those have all been positive and good. We are kind of taking a right turn a little bit this year. Donnie is right back at the helm. He had kind of handed it off a little bit to some other guys, and he's right back to leading. And so as he's brought myself on, and he's got a big old team of us who are working together, which is, as it should be, delegation. We're all trying to do this together because we do believe in this conference. We do believe in the heart behind that the students that are coming. I think it's a misnomer to say that they are the future. They are the church. It's not the future. They are the church. And so we need to really engage them now, engage them because they live in a time. It's no surprise to any of us that they live in a time that they're being challenged in their faith. They're being challenged to be devoted to Christ. And that is where we're headed this summer, to devoted. That is the theme, devoted. It's going to be a really, I think, profitable time for these students because we're going to look at devoted from this angle. What are you devoted to? As Christians, we know there's some things we should be devoted to, but are we really devoted to those over the things that we've put in our life that maybe are pulling us away from the things we should be? Chris Vines is going to be our first speaker right out the gate, and that's what he's going to unpack. He's going to set the table for us. What are we devoted to? What are the things that maybe it's our social media, our phone, our friends, or whatever? What are the things that are occupying that space? And making sure that we really understand what we should be devoted to. Then he hands the ball off to Stephen Castleberry, who's going to say, all right, so if we should be devoted to Christ, the first thing we should understand is that he's given us this word that is faithful, that is true, that's foundational, and it is the Bible. So we should be devoted to the word. From that, he'll give the baton over to Nathan Brewer, who is going to talk about the church. We should be devoted to the church. As God's plan A is when he left it to us to with the Holy Spirit to start the church. Not being devoted necessarily to religion, not being devoted to creed, but being devoted to the church that God has called us to be. From there, we'll go into what is one of the mainstays of any BMA conference, or especially SOAR, is missions. Jeremy Hambrice is going to be talking about being devoted to the mission of God, whether that be your personal involvement in missions or how you support missions or how you pray for missions. I'm sure there's going to be some exciting things that he's going to bring to us. And then what's a new thing this year is that instead of doing just 4 sessions, we're doing 5. And so there's a 5th session that will be led by Drew Klein. And everything we've mentioned so far, whether it be the Word, the Bible, or missions, if we do it without a devotion to Christ, then it's empty and void. So he's gonna make sure at the very end that we understand the chief thing that we need to do in our life is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. And so we'll look at that, and that's in a nutshell SOAR this year. It's very, very well thought out, and the theme, I believe, is very current for what these students are going through.
Well, you mentioned some guys, and not all of our listeners are a part of BMA churches.
Right.
Maybe we could take a moment just to kind of talk about them just briefly. You mentioned Chris Vines was your first speaker. Tell us about
Yes.
Chris. We know him through the podcast, though.
Right. If you've been to SOAR over the past few years, you'll have seen Chris. He's the guy with the really weak mustache. You'll see. Okay. He's trying, folks. He's trying. He's trying. Ever since I guess Top Gun came out, he felt like he needed to be relevant.
That's
and this
fantastic.
is his relevant mustache. Chris is really involved with student ministry. A lot of these guys, I don't know all their details, so I'll just give you kind of what I know about Chris. Chris is definitely one of these guys that has a voice in SOAR, and to be honest with you, this year's theme, devoted, was well thought through before I stepped on the scene, and even before Donnie really took over. And Chris Vines was one of those that was pioneering that theme. So that's Chris. So Stephen Castleberry, he is at Antioch, Georgetown, which is in Texas. He was at Antioch Conway with me as a middle school pastor when we launched our first church plant in Georgetown. He, with a team of about 40, went down to Georgetown. And he's now serving down there. And here's the cool thing. It's not about numbers, but you can see that God has been blessing them. They went from 40 people down there in just 5 years. They're running average about 800 to 850.
Oh, wow.
So God is moving. God is doing some great things. And Stephen is integral to that. So that's Stephen.
Well, we've had Stephen on the podcast before. He's a great guy. And of course, Chris is my regular co-host. We talk about student ministry. So these are guys that understand the world of student ministry, and I'm thrilled by that. But it doesn't end there. You've also got Nathan Brewer as one of your other speakers.
Yeah, Nathan Brewer is in Oklahoma. He is a church planner. He is at Grace Harbor in Oklahoma. He also is one that I've worked with. He was our high school pastor at Antioch Conway for a while, and that's been now a good while as he is launched off. When I first met Nathan, he had just, I think he was single at that point in time. This would have been 12 years ago. And now I think he has 20 kids. He is married too, so
yeah.
make sure you know all those things. But he's taking on the role of multiplying, for being fruitful, very seriously. So
Very seriously.
very seriously, and he's got a heart for the church. He's got a heart for
Yeah.
engaging the community, actually, and the church's role in that. So he's very much on that.
Well, speaking about missions, you have someone special there with us.
Yeah, and Jeremy Hambryce is the missionary for that, and maybe you could speak to him a little bit more. He's one of those guys that I know of, and he
Right,
and
right.
I've contacted every one of our guys so far, but he's one of those guys that I've yet to be able to speak to. But he's one of our missionaries, and he's coming in, and I know he's got a great story from
Yeah.
what I've been told, but I don't want to say it wrong, so maybe
Sure,
you have some
sure.
of that information.
I don't, but I always love hearing from our missionaries because they bring a real world experience that our
Hmm.
students need to hear and seeing themselves. Hey, maybe this is something God wants me
Hmm.
to do. I know with last year we had a missionary from Romania, and
Hmm.
I just love these guys. They give their whole heart, their whole lives to
Yeah.
serving God in other places in the world. And then finally, you mentioned that Drew Klein's going to be speaking as well.
Right, and that is a change from, if you looked at early publications of who was going to speak. Donnie Parrish was on the last docket there. We've handed it over to Drew Klein. Drew Klein is, for those of you who don't know him, he is now the pastor of South City Church in Little Rock, and that is a church revitalization project in that area. And he's doing some great work in the Little Rock area with that church. His past, he's a CBC student who graduated, and then he has gone on to pseudo fame. He went on and did some music with New Song. Great, fantastic vocalist. Got a heart for the Lord. Got a heart for worship. Got a heart for leading people. And I've got to know him through this process a little bit better. We've had a lot of conversations about the direction of SOAR, and I believe that he spent a good amount of time in SOAR's past being one of the leaders, worship leaders actually, and so he's coming a little bit full circle now with being a little bit more of the person who is helping to instill the vision in the next generation.
Yeah, Drew is a great guy. He is the co-host of the Healthy Church podcast with Larry Barker. He is a thinker, and he is concerned about seeing us follow God wholeheartedly. And
Hmm.
so there's a great docket of speakers lined up for SOAR 2023. I hope that you'll consider sending your students there, bringing them. Where is it located this year?
This year is going to be in Dallas, Texas, at the Gaylord Hotel. It is probably everybody's favorite venue when we go to these hotels down in that area. If you've never been, it's a world unto itself. It's pretty neat.
It is. In addition to the actual hotel and the pool, like they have a little water park that is connected
Yeah.
to that. And then when you stay in that hotel, there's a little shuttle that'll run you down to that water park.
Hmm.
Just a great little world. Plus, there's a mall not too far from
Right.
the conference hotel, as well as lots of places to eat. Again, it's just a fantastic experience. They've been there many times, and I'm glad to see them there again at the Gaylord Texan. What about the
Absolutely.
dates and registration?
So July 3rd through 5th, that's going to be as it normally is. It's centered right around that time of 4th of July. So July 3rd through 5th are the dates, and registration is active right now. If you go to, and I know we'll put the link in just a moment to soarconference.com. You can register there, and I would encourage, as always, there's an early bird registration for 135, and that goes through June 4th. So
Hmm.
June 4th, you have that much time to get that rate locked in at 135. After that, it jumps up a little bit to 150. So make sure you do that. I know right now that they have negotiated with the hotel for the prices to be somewhere about 139 for a room, and I think that is through June 10th. So make sure you don't wait
Yeah,
too
and
long.
no, don't want to wait too long, and you can't beat the type of room you're going to get for
Right.
139. It's
Absolutely.
it is just a great experience, and I know a lot of our listeners are in the mid to small size churches.
Hmm.
That your students may not go off to a fancy hotel much in their
Hmm.
life, but man, what an experience!
Absolutely.
Dallas has a lot of fantastic places that you can take your students to see. I've taken students to the aquarium, to the zoo. I think you can maybe even get a tour of the Cowboy Stadium.
Hmm.
There's usually ball games around that time for the Rangers. Again, a great
Yeah.
opportunity. And I know that there are even some of our student ministries that will make a choice to make this a part of a mission trip. Maybe they'll do the first few days and then head off to SOAR, or they'll do the ministry right after SOAR. A lot of ways that can be. Tell us anything else that we need to know about the conference, or anything that else that'll be happening there. Well, hey, one of our favorite things is a SOAR collective. Tell us about
Yes.
the band that'll be leading worship.
SOAR Collective, I think this is going to be their third year that they've done this, or maybe fourth. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look. So if you've been over the past years, then you'll know that the band that has been leading us is back. This is a group of students that have all come through Central Baptist College in Conway. They are very talented. They are very, really concerned about worship over performance, and you're going to see that in them. I've been working really closely with Preston Jones, who is their worship leader, who's kind of is the helm for them is and we've been working with him. We've got some neat, exciting things with worship that has yet to ever be done, I believe, at SOAR. So I
Mm,
won't unpack that too much, but we're really working to really up the ante a little bit and allow for some cool things that we just have never done before. I mean, we're still singing praise and worship to the Lord. That's not going to change. But just in some of the cool things that we can do with technology and planning ahead, we can do some pretty cool things. Um, just as a selfish kind of like I'm just so proud moment that a
yeah.
lot of those students that are you'll see up there have been part of an intern program that has been with me at Antioch. I've loved pulling these guys in, giving them some training, giving them some opportunities, and then seeing them just fly. And they've all stayed kind of close together, and they're serving together through this. And it's a little bit of a proud papa moment to look up there and go, yeah, those are knuckleheads, but I love them. So
Well, one of the first years that they did that, we had a breakout group, and they asked me to kind of lead the conversation and just help with students that maybe are interested in the creative aspects of worship and leading
mhm,
in those ways. And so I interviewed them. And yes, you're right. They're a bunch of knuckleheads, but man, are they concerned about worship? I just love
absolutely
their heart. And so when they get up on that stage, it's not about them at all.
right.
It's about worshiping a God and helping students worship God. Because I know a lot, like I said, a lot of our students are in these small to mid-sized churches, and they may never experience some of the music that we've
Hmm.
sung at SOAR, and never had the opportunity to worship with a group over 50 people.
Right.
And it's a big change when you've got hundreds around you.
It's a bit of a culture shock, and that's one of the things that Preston and I have been talking a lot about, and that's if we go into that here, basically some of the conversations have been centered around not all has to be new. We can go back and we can look at wonderful hymns and wonderful, not just hymns, but worship songs that these kids will know.
Yeah.
Because once you realize that, like you said, some are coming from maybe a rural area where they don't sing songs that are new, and if they new to them might be 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
So we have to realize that we don't want to leave anybody behind for the sake of new. And
Mm.
we're really trying to, but at the same time, it's a youth conference, so we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a good time
Yeah.
too. And so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a balancing act, but we're gonna do our best.
I love that. I love that. Well, let me ask this question as a part of the creative team. What is your hope for students as they leave this conference, go back to their
Mhm,
homes?
mhm.
What do you hope that they'll take with them?
That's a good question. And here's the truth about that. There is in the past, I think that we've kind of gotten to the point to where we've really focused on discipleship, and
Hmm.
that's a bit important. And when I say this, this might sound like I'm coming at it from the wrong angle, but it's hard to disciple students in a day and a half or 2 days.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
So we're not going to make our goal trying to disciple them, but to impact them. We want to remind ourselves that there have been so many people who've come away in the decades we've been doing this, say that SOAR was the place where God did this in my life. God called me to this in my life. And that means that there were moments that were of impact, that they were challenged and they made a core move towards God that they will always be able to anchor back to. And I think that that's really what I would hope for the most, is that no matter what we do through the fun, the games, the worship, the gathering, is that as students, not just, I hope we have many who go, okay, God is definitely calling me to, and I feel that call. And from there, I will respond. And that will become some sort of fire that flames through our churches, through the BMA, outside of the BMA, wherever God decides that needs to go. I know that sounds like a very broad desire, but I believe it's my chief desire in the whole thing.
Well, I have to tell a little bit of my own story here, because it was at a conference put on by the BMA back in 1989. It was called Encounter. It was one of those youth conferences that predated SOAR, since SOAR started in 91. But it was a moment where God impacted me and left me with this core change that changed my direction in life. And it led me to Central Baptist College, to a deeper understanding of his word, and an understanding that God wanted not just parts of me, but he wanted my whole life. And so I totally get what you're saying, Travis, and I love that. I'm excited by that, because like you mentioned, you can't disciple a student in 2.5 days. You only get a start. And so if we can help our students be impacted by the bigness of God and the greatness of his mission, what a wonderful thing to be devoted to.
Absolutely.
Travis, if somebody wants to find out more information, if they want to understand a little bit more about SOAR and they haven't been to SOAR, what's the best way for them to find out?
Well, the best place to go would be, there is a website, www.soarconference.com. And that's where you can do all the registration. Now, to find out more about it, I'm not sure if we've got a great place for you to go find out more about what it is in the past, but I can tell you this. You could always reach out to me, Travis@AntiochConway.com, and I'd love to talk with you and be able to help open the door to your group coming. We have groups coming this year that I believe are outside of the BMA because they've heard about it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, okay, bring them. We'll whoever wants to come. So if your group has, and I will say this, in the past, we've had a lot of groups find other things to do, and that's great, whether it's camps or mission trips or whatever. And SOAR has maybe gone off the map for them. And we get that. We understand that there's a lot of competing for your time, your resources, and is a couple-day conference, is that really going to be impactful? Well, I'll tell you this much. We're going to strive to make it impactful. And I believe that it's going to be one of the best bangs for your resources that I think is out there. So I would encourage you to maybe think about, maybe this is the year that you come back. This is the year that you give it another shot if you've decided to kind of walk away just for whatever reason. And I think it'll be very, very much well worth your time.
Well, Travis, thank you so much for sharing today and being part of the conversation.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, listener, I would just encourage you, check out the SOAR conference, reach out to Travis or reach out to me. I've been involved off and on with the SOAR conference. My wife was a part of the very first one back in 1991 as a musical guest, since she was in Donnie's youth choir. That'll take you back a few years. But it is a great time. It can be impactful, and we would want to see that in your student ministry. So as we wrap up today, I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us as we talked about SOAR and all the other things that are involved with student ministry. And we'll keep doing these because student ministry matters.
Thanks for listening to the Student Ministry Matters podcast. Get connected at studentministrymatters.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Student Ministry Matters. Until next time, keep up the great work with your students, because the work matters.